Who needs friends or family anyway? So overrated. I'll just be a happy 80-year-old all on my own. I will show them that it is possible. At one point or another in most people's lives, everyone will ask themselves the same question. What does really matter? Is there any meaning to life? It is a legit question, and it is good to answer it early in life. Most people aren't that fortunate and often waste decades of their lives following delusions and coping mechanisms, and most people never actually answer those questions. Today we will analyze somewhat empirically what really matters and how to answer such questions in general. The first idea is kind of obvious. Just ask those people who made it to the last stages in their lives and what they regret. Old people will often readily tell you what they are remorseful about. They want to warn you, in a sense. Most people are good at heart. Many of them will tell you that in the end, experiences and relationships matter much more than material wealth, which is also kind of interesting, but not as far-fetched. This comes as no surprise, really, as nothing in our evolutionary past really prepared us to experience happiness from luxury items, as they simply did not exist. There wasn't much luxury in an evolutionary context, so it wasn't something that we could really adapt to. And the problem with just asking old people is that they just provide anecdotal evidence, but no quantifiable proof. And this is, well, legit criticism. But to get proof, we have to count what old people say on average and correlate it, or correlate their answers and the results they experience late in life with decisions in their lives. That sounds like an awful hassle and a very long-term study that we should do, but luckily, as with most things, someone else already did that. There is a Harvard study that is still ongoing, and that study has followed people for over 80 years, and even the children of those people who already died. And they wanted to find out and analyze what causes happiness in life. And the result of that study is that the quality of our relationships is way more important than wealth or even health. And let that sink in for a while, because most people value health a lot. And relationships even positively influence health in the long term. Loneliness kills as much as addictions like smoking or drinking. And the relationship quality predicts happiness much better than social class, IQ, or even the DNA. It is amazing in a sense. And a good family is thus a supreme form of happiness insurance, which greatly benefits your health later in life as a result. Because your children, if you treat them well, will love you and will care for you. That said, it is very likely the case that people with good relationships need less unhealthy behaviors to cope with many of the bad feelings, and thus the positive influence on health emerge. It is not that the relationships themselves cause good health. It is the bad behaviors we do not need. But we can even go a step further and not just look at old people in the last stage of their lives, but at people who were technically dead but came back. There is an interesting area of near-death experience research that might give us some insight too. Many people who died, no matter from what cultural background, describe very similar phenomena. If it was just one person, we could safely ignore it. But many independent reports are worth further research, but are obviously no proof. But simply ignoring such statements, such experiences, wouldn't be very scientific either. And people who died and came back independently describe a figure of light that shows them their lives from the perspective of other people, which is quite interesting. They experience their life from the eyes of the people they spend time with. And they get to re-experience all the times they treated other people badly. And it doesn't really matter if that someone was a religious person or an atheist either. They both experience more or less the same thing. There are some variations due to the things we know from our culture, but the essence is identical. And those who come back and had such an experience report that there are only two things that truly matter: love and knowledge, which is kind of interesting. And the spiritual people among us will maybe recognize a pattern, but more on that later. If they had such an experience from attempted suicide, for example, they would never even think about committing suicide again. They further describe that such an experience is not like a dream, and even get a bit offended by people suggesting that and not believing them, because to them it was absolutely real, it was very clear, very bright, and not, well, dreamlike. Further, there was no judgment involved at all. The feelings they experience is entirely peaceful and nice and without any negative connotation. And many people don't even want to come back from that kind of experience. Most people who return even undergo a very deep-rooted transformation of character and focus much more on those things that really matter now, namely love and knowledge. I will omit any implications on the afterlife and whatnot, as they do not really matter when it comes to happiness in this life. And many people are kind of repelled by such things and implications. And those who are familiar with Buddhism won't be surprised by what those people describe. It sounds a lot like two of the main goals of the Buddha, namely metta or loving kindness and wisdom. The Buddha pretty much teaches us those two very things to overcome suffering once and for all and attain supreme happiness. That said, the love the Buddha names is a special, impartial kind of love, and the wisdom is a special kind of knowledge. It is not the knowledge that, I don't know, of speaking 6 different languages that will make you happy. That is very obvious. It is a special kind of knowledge. It is wisdom. And not any wisdom, it is also special wisdom. But those people who describe such experiences often do not have the vocabulary to articulate that. The word that best describes it is love, and the other word that best describes it is knowledge. But there are people who formalized it and have words that might be more fitting. And I am fairly sure that people with such an experience mean exactly those two. They surely won't mean mathematical proofs or online politics or things like that. There is even an insight event in many spiritual traditions that is quite similar in effect compared to a near-death experience. In the Christian spiritual traditions, for example, it is called born again, and in Buddhism it is called stream entry. And the effects are very comparable. Those who experience it describe similar feelings as in near-death experiences. Complete peace, complete contentment, only good emotions. And it makes sense to a degree. Such insights event are a bit like dying while still alive. Hence the name born again. Okay, but let us now come to the most important points. Most people get lost in unhealthy behaviors, addictions, and loneliness. They can oftentimes waste decades or their entire lives pursuing meaningless goals and coping mechanisms. Looking at old people, science, and people who died gives us some perspective and some frame of reference what might be a good idea to do. What matters most are apparently good relationships, aka love, and true knowledge, aka wisdom of what brings happiness. Coincidentally, the Buddha taught those very things to attain supreme happiness, or nibbana, or nirvana, as he calls it. And loving kindness and wisdom from meditation benefit your well-being so much that I know of no comparable thing. Nothing benefited my own life as much as the meditative practice that the Buddha prescribed. Okay, but that is pretty much it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy this style of video, please leave me a thumbs up so I know to produce more of this style of content in the future. And if you enjoy it, also subscribe to the channel. And if you feel like I missed something or misrepresented something, it happens from time to time, then please also let me know in the comment section so that other people, and especially I, can benefit from your wisdom. But until then, I wish you a pleasant day and goodbye.